All right, buckle up for a deep dive, but
Yeah.
not our usual kind of deep dive. We're switching gears a bit today. Instead of research papers and data, we're going to be exploring a novel.
Oh, color me intrigued. Using fiction as a source, that's certainly a new approach.
Yeah, it's The Dream Hotel by Lalami, and we're going to use it to kind of look at how this novel imagines the future.
That's
What it tells us about technology, about society, and even about what it means to be human.
sounds fascinating. And I trust we'll be doing this without, spoiling the plot for our listeners who haven't read it yet.
Absolutely, no spoilers.
Hmm.
We just want to give you a taste, a glimpse into this world, and hopefully leave you wanting more. So imagine this. Pre-crime detention is a reality. And it's all because of, well, this thing called the risk assessment algorithm, or RAA.
The RAA. Think of it not as one single algorithm, but more like a whole network of algorithms. They're constantly working in the background, crunching data.
Right, right.
One might be analyzing your internet history, another one your social media activity,
Mhm.
and another might even be monitoring your biometrics, heart rate, stress levels, all that stuff. And all these pieces, they feed into this master risk score.
Mhm.
Always watching, always assessing.
It's kind of creepy when you think about it, like constantly being watched and judged by these invisible algorithms. And if your score gets too high, well, you get sent to a place like Madison. They call it a retention center, but honestly, it sounds more like a prison.
Yeah, retention center. That's one way to put it. It's run by this private contractor called SafeX.
The SafeX, yeah.
Yeah.
And the novel even refers to Madison as the Dream Hotel, which feels, I don't know, almost like a cruel joke, right?
The dissonance it's striking for sure. You have this supposedly safe haven, which is really at its core a gilded cage.
Exactly. And you know what else is unsettling? SafeX isn't some kind of like government agency. It's a contractor. They profit off of detention.
Think about the implications of that for a second. The more people they flag as high risk, the more money they make.
It's a disturbing thought. And at the center of all this is our main character, Sarah, a historian who gets flagged during a routine airport security check. She's coming back from London after a work trip.
A historian. I think that's a really interesting choice by Lalami. It really underscores the ethical complexities at play here. You have Sarah, who's dedicated her life to studying the past, trying to understand the present, and suddenly she's caught in this system obsessed with predicting the future.
And it's that very system that's threatening to take away her freedom. What really gets me is the lack of transparency. She's thrown into this nightmare with absolutely no explanation.
Absolutely. She's fighting this bureaucratic nightmare, just trying to figure out why she's considered high risk, all while being subjected to the constant surveillance and the arbitrary rules of Madison.
It's really hard to imagine, being detained because of an algorithm's decision and having absolutely no control over the situation. It really makes you wonder, can an algorithm actually predict human behavior with that level of accuracy?
Yeah.
And what happens when he gets it wrong?
And it's bound to get it wrong, right?
Huh?
No algorithm is perfect. It's especially unsettling considering Sarah's background, as you said, a historian, someone who looks to the past to understand the present.
And now she's trapped in this system that's all about predicting the future,
Yeah.
potentially at the cost of her freedom. Speaking of Madison, let's dive into what life is actually like inside this retention center. We know there are device checks, work assignments, minimal contact with the outside world. I mean, on the surface, it sounds incredibly boring, mundane even.
It does. But there's this underlying tension, this constant fear of not knowing what the RAA might decide next that really hangs over everything.
Right. Because like even the most ordinary activities become charged with this sense of dread. And then we have the other detainees, these individuals who are all trapped in this system alongside Sarah, like Toya, her friend, who's incredibly skeptical of the whole thing.
We also meet Emily, Sarah's roommate, who happens to be a firefighter with a passion for drawing. And then there's Hinton, one of the attendants at Madison. He seems to be, well, kind of conflicted about his role in all of this.
Sounds like a real pressure cooker of personalities, all trying to cope with this incredibly strange and stressful situation.
You've got it. They're forming these fragile alliances, finding ways to express themselves, clinging to hope. But it makes you wonder, what is the psychological impact of living under this kind of constant surveillance with these constantly shifting power dynamics?
Right, right. It's dehumanizing, to say the least. And, we've talked about the REA, we've talked about Madison, but there's another layer to this whole dystopian setup that I find particularly disturbing. It's this technology they have called the Dream Saver. It's a neuroprosthetic that promises to to improve sleep quality. Sounds harmless enough, right?
On the surface, sure. But here's where things take a really dark turn. The RAA uses data collected from these dream savers to, get this, analyze people's dreams, and that data then gets factored into their risk assessments.
Wait. So they're using people's dreams, like their most private thoughts and feelings, to predict criminal behavior.
It sounds crazy, but that's exactly the kind of world that Lalami has created in this novel. It's not simply about improving your sleep anymore. It's about having access to, well, to your subconscious.
It's terrifying when you think about it. I mean, imagine if someone could see into your dreams,
Yeah.
your fears, your desires, all your deepest, darkest secrets. Where does privacy even begin in a world like that?
Exactly. The implications are huge, not just for individual freedom, but for how we understand responsibility. Should we be held accountable for our dreams, for thoughts that we don't consciously control?
It's a question that haunts me, honestly.
Yeah.
What if they would see my dreams? Would they judge me, misinterpret something? The very unsettling thought.
Unsettling indeed. And then there's this even creepier aspect of this whole dream technology. The novel hints at this emerging dream economy. There's even a mention of Dream Social, a platform where people can share their dreams. It makes you think, are we headed toward a future where even our subconscious becomes commodified, exploited for profit?
It's a lot to process, and we're really just scratching the surface here. But this whole idea of dreams as data, it's what leads us to the next stage of our deep dive.
Stick with us as we explore the implications of this technology and how Sarah navigates this increasingly unsettling world.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Dream Hotel. When we left off, we were talking about the Dream Saver and how the RAA uses that dream data, to assess risk. It's a pretty disturbing thought, and it really only gets more intense as we follow Sarah's story.
Yeah, you're talking about the expedited hearing, right? The one where Sarah's basically grilled by those two agents from Themis Legal Services. What were their names? Bradley and Mendoza. Yeah, that whole scene was just so unnerving.
It really does get under your skin, the way they use, dream analysis and Sarah's personal history to try and paint her as a potential threat. Like when they bring up that childhood incident where her brother drowned, it feels so manipulative. Yeah, like they're grasping at straws, desperately trying to make her anxieties and fears fit this predetermined profile. Almost like they'd already decided that she was guilty before the hearing even started. They were just looking for any scrap of evidence to support that.
That's what's so disturbing about this whole REA system. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The algorithm flags someone as high risk, and then suddenly everything in their life is viewed through that lens, even tragic events from their past.
It's like the algorithm just strips away all nuance, all context, reduces people, complex human beings, to just data points, and then uses those data points to justify taking away their freedom.
Exactly. And the way they keep bringing up Sarah's husband, Elias, how his risk score has been decreasing while hers has been going up. It's like they're trying to build this case that she's a danger to him or something.
I remember thinking, hold on, are they actually suggesting that people with different risk scores shouldn't be together? Like what kind of world is that, where algorithms get to decide who you can love, who you can be close to?
It's the ultimate form of social engineering, wouldn't you say? The algorithm becomes this invisible hand that shapes relationships, isolates people. Imagine the feel of being associated with someone who's been deemed high risk, always worrying that their score might somehow taint yours.
Yeah, it'd be like this constant pressure, this invisible weight on every interaction. You'd second guess everything, who to trust, who to let in.
Absolutely. And then of course comes the most unsettling part of the whole hearing when they bring up Sarah's dream journal, the one that was confiscated during the evacuation from Madison.
Oh, I felt so uncomfortable during that part. It was like I was intruding on something deeply personal. It's one thing to, analyze dreams in this abstract theoretical way, but to see them picking apart Sarah's specific dreams, her fears, her desires, it just felt wrong.
It really drives home the point about the complete erosion of privacy in this world. If our dreams aren't safe, then what is? It really makes you question, at what point does security become tyranny, right? When we're constantly monitored, judged, even punished for our thoughts.
And there's that scene where they bring up this dream that Sarah had about poisoning Elias's soup. I mean, come on, it was just a dream, a fleeting thought, not a real intention. But the agents use it to paint her as a threat,
Yeah.
to suggest that every action starts with a thought, so therefore even thoughts can be dangerous.
It's like they're trying to criminalize thought itself,
Yeah.
which is terrifying when you really think about it, especially when you consider that dreams are often illogical, symbolic, not meant to be taken literally.
It made me wonder about the agents themselves. Do they actually believe in what they're doing, or have they just become so desensitized to the system that they've lost sight of basic human decency?
It's a question that Lalami leaves us to grapple with. Are they true believers, or are they just cogs in the machine? Or maybe it's something in between. But regardless of their motivations, their interrogation of Sarah is deeply, deeply unsettling.
And then that ending, that ambiguous ending, where Sarah thinks she's been released, but then wakes up back at Madison, it leaves you wondering: was it all a dream? Is she still trapped in this nightmare? It's brilliantly done, but also incredibly frustrating.
It's a masterclass in psychological suspense. Lalami really throws our whole perception of reality into question, which mirrors Sarah's own disorientation and uncertainty. We end up feeling just as trapped as she is.
It makes you question everything you've seen and heard up to that point. Is Sarah a reliable narrator? Is the world that she's experiencing even real? Or is it all just a product of the system's manipulation?
Those are definitely questions that linger, long after the hearing ends. But one thing's for sure, even if her release was real, the whole experience has left her deeply traumatized.
Absolutely. She's lost her job, her sense of security, even her trust in her own husband. The psychological toll of this whole system is undeniable.
It raises these really important questions about the human cost of this obsession with security. What are we willing to sacrifice in the name of safety? And at what point does that pursuit of security become more dangerous than the threats it claims to protect us from?
We've seen how this RAA works, how it uses algorithms and dream analysis to control behavior and the serious ethical dilemmas that it creates.
We've witnessed the erosion of privacy, the chilling effects of social engineering, and the psychological trauma that's inflicted on people like Sarah. It's a pretty bleak picture, there's no doubt about that.
But the Dream Hotel isn't just a dystopian nightmare.
Wow.
There are these glimmers of hope, these moments of resistance that shine through the darkness. And that's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned as we delve into the power of the human spirit to resist even the most oppressive systems.
So we spent the last 2 parts of our deep dive, exploring that dark side of the Dream Hotel. We've been unpacking this world where algorithms can just decide whether you're free or not, and even your dreams become these data points. It's heavy stuff, but honestly, there's this other side to this story that I think gives me some hope.
Yeah, it's really easy to get lost in those dystopian elements for sure. But I think you're right, Lalami. She doesn't leave us completely in the dark. There's this thread of resistance that runs through the whole narrative.
Right. And it starts with these small acts of defiance. Like when Sarah decides she's just done. She's not going to work anymore, which might seem like a small thing, but in the context of Madison, it's huge.
It is. It's her way of saying, no, I'm not going to be complicit in this system anymore. You really get this sense of her reclaiming some of her agency, pushing back against that control they've been trying to impose on her.
And it's not just Sarah, right? I mean, we see other detainees like Toya and Victoria who are constantly questioning those rules, refusing to just, be these cogs in the machine.
It's like that saying, one candle can light 1,000 others,
Yeah.
There's that ripple effect. As more and more people start questioning those cracks in the system, they become more visible, right? And that's where the potential for some kind of collective action really lies.
It makes me think of that scene where Sarah actually tries to organize a strike among the detainees. She's basically saying, look, we have power. Even here, we can make them listen to us.
Which is, of course, incredibly risky. The consequences for disobedience at Madison are, they're pretty severe, but it speaks to that human need for justice, that refusal to be silenced, even when you're facing those kinds of odds.
Yeah. Even if the strike itself doesn't really fully succeed, it plants a seed.
Yeah.
That seed of rebellion that could blossom later on.
Yeah.
And thinking about these acts of resistance, it reminds me of Sarah's roommate, Emily. She's a firefighter, but in her free time at Madison, she draws. Even in this incredibly oppressive environment, she finds this this solace in her art.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in the, in the bleakest of situations, creativity can be a form of resistance. It's a
Yeah.
way to hold on to your humanity.
Exactly. It shows that the human spirit, you can't completely contain it, right? There's always this need to create, to express ourselves, and that can be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. And it's not just the detainees either, right? We see those moments with Hinton, that attendant, where he seems to be, really questioning his role, struggling with the morality of the whole system that he's a part of.
It's that inner conflict that makes those characters so compelling. He's caught
Mm.
between following orders and his own sense of empathy, and I think he represents that flicker of conscience that can exist even within these really oppressive structures.
And that internal struggle is something that Lalami really explores throughout the novel.
Like he's saying, I may be part of this system, but I don't have to be defined by it, right?
Mhm.
It's this reminder that there's always that room for individual choice,
Mhm.
for compassion, even in the face of these rigid rules and regulations.
And I think Lalami is reminding us that even in this dystopian future human connection, it's a lifeline. It's what sustains Sarah. Her love for her husband, her children, her friendship with Toya, those bonds are really what keep her going.
Yeah, it's like those relationships are these anchors in this sea of uncertainty. They give her something to hold on to, something to fight for.
And those little moments of humor, those shared jokes between Sarah and Toya, those small acts of kindness, they create these little pockets of light right in the middle of all that darkness. They're reminders of how powerful human connection can be, how it can nourish us and inspire us.
I think the Dream Hotel really makes us think about the trade-offs that we're willing to make for security. It's so easy to get caught up in fear, to accept these limitations on our freedom in exchange for feeling safe. But this story, it shows us the true cost of that exchange, the individual lives that are sacrificed, the erosion of trust, the chipping away at the very essence of what it means to be human.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale, definitely. But I also think it's a testament to the human spirit. It reminds us that even when we're up against these incredibly oppressive systems, even when our dreams are used against us, we can find ways to resist, connect with each other, to hold on to hope.
So there you have it, our deep dive into the Dream Hotel. We've spent this time exploring this world of pre-crime detention, of dream analysis, and the really thorny ethical dilemmas that technology creates.
We've talked about the potential for algorithms to control our lives, the chilling effects of surveillance, but we've also uncovered those sparks of resistance, those moments of human connection that remind us of our resilience.
And remember, this is really just a glimpse into the world that Lalami has created. If you want to explore these themes more deeply, we highly recommend picking up a copy of The Dream Hotel. You really won't regret it.
Until our next deep dive, keep those critical thinking skills sharp and never forget, even in the darkest of times, there's always hope, resistance, and human connection, and those can prevail.